Wait, remember The Weekenders? Coming from the same creator of Dave the Barbarian, The Weekenders was a cartoon that everyone remembers fondly as the show that beat Pokemon. Disney's biggest dream had finally come true. Kind of. Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringe-Miss, where there's going to be brand new videos every single day from December 1st to December 25th. Hop aboard. It ran for 4 years and 4 seasons, from February 26, 2000 to February 29, 2004. The first 2 seasons had airtime slots on ABC through their Disney's One Saturday morning block. The third season moved to UPN for Disney's One 2 block, and just straight up moved to Toon Disney for its final season, which only consisted of 5 episodes. Despite its 4 seasons, the series didn't sport a lot of episodes. Only 39 were made, a total of 73 individual segments. It received a lot of positive reception from critics and kids alike. Their claim to fame was the sudden overthrow of the reigning airtime king, Pokemon, when it kicked it off its throne and took the #1 slot for programming for kids 2 to 11 on April 29, 2000. So here's the question I'll pose to you, my audience. Who would win in a battle, Gigantamax Charizard or livin' for the weekend icon Tino? I know my answer, but I'll give you some time to think about it. And while you're thinking about it, if you enjoy this video, you better subscribe. Let's jump into this.
This is bogus.
The Weekenders was created by Doug Langdale and pulls a lot of inspiration from his memories as a child living in San Diego, California. Main characters Tino, Tish, Carver, and Lore make up the friend group that the series focuses on. Each episode consists of 2 segments, around 12 minutes each. So it's a fast-paced exploration of a weekend, starting with Friday establishing the plot of every episode, Saturday is the action of the episode, and Sunday is where the group must deal with their actions and reflect on what they've learned. Each seeks to make the most of their weekend, and each episode leads the 4 characters on adventures such as playing fun games, fitting in socially, participating in the newest trends or crazes, and so much more. Each episode is very different and doesn't feel too repetitive. Langdale states that he writes about the things that are important to kids that are at that age, and that while it's written for kids, it technically does apply to everyone. While the concerns of kids and adults can morph and take on more mature themes, there are still important issues that can be reflected more simply in problems that kids face. The 4 characters themselves are also really unique, and Langdale was often praised for such a casually diverse series in the early 2000s.
I'm with the cool kids right now.
The Weekenders will be coming right up. And so will my lunch.
We're back. Dude, what stinks in here?
Tino, voiced by Jason Marsden, kinda takes the forefront of the series as the main character, mainly because he's given the task of being the narrator throughout the episodes, for the most part. Tino has a very sarcastic and witty personality that pairs well with his slightly paranoid and flighty habits. He makes for a great main character to anchor onto, as he is pretty well-rounded, but has many other qualities that make him still quite unique and interesting. Some of his paranoia and anxiousness results in him being susceptible to conspiracy theories, which always makes the episodes much more fascinating. Tish, voiced by Katsuchi, is known as the most intelligent, being that she has an affinity for the arts and sciences. Nerd. But she's a relatable nerd. She still gets frustrated when her friends aren't listening to her as the voice of reason, but she still never has a Joker moment. Her perfectionist personality often leads to her fixating on small miscalculations, but outside of that, she's really confident in herself. Carver, voiced by Phil Lamar, is the most superficial member of their friend group, with his priorities focusing on fashion and the desire to become a celebrity or just popular and cool. He's actually one of my favorite characters because his insecurities offer a lot of character development potential, and he's tested all the time. He never lets these things hurt those around him, as he cares very deeply for his friends. Much like Lore, he also has siblings, specifically a younger brother who annoys him to no end, and an older sister who actually does love him despite being rude toward him, as siblings are naturally. Lore, voiced by Grey Griffin, balances out Tish the most in personality, as the two of them are very close. She has like 14 brothers, I think, but to be quite honest, I don't even think that she knows how many there are. The show just kinda has you guessing, most likely because of the household she grows up in. She acts tough. This is reflected in her defense mechanisms, which are typically her resorting to violent threats. But come on, who hasn't threatened a few people in their lives over minor inconveniences? Plus, the threats are mostly empty and endearing. She's a very chill girl who, when she's not playing sports, likes to kick it with video games and junk food. Her negative personality traits could include her spoiled nature, perhaps attributed to her being the only girl in her family. The kids also frequent a pizza shop, in which they are waited on by the pizza guy, who is voiced by Jeff Bennett. One of the running gags of the series was that the pizza shop changed themes every episode. This was because Langdale didn't know what to name the restaurant, so he just decided to change it every time. Initially, it was supposed to be a tea shop like the one that Langdale and his friends used to frequent, but Disney said, nah, tea's out, pizza's in. So they canned that idea, on the guidelines that kids weren't interested in tea. A controversial statement here. I prefer tea over pizza. Why are you all booing me? I'm right. The series takes place in Bahia Bay. Bahia is Spanish for bay, so technically the place is called Bay, which is heavily inspired by San Diego, where Langdale grew up. The characters feel well written as we get deeper looks into their individual lives. We get to meet their siblings and their parents and learn about their backgrounds in which they were raised. In one of my favorite episodes, The New Girl, where Tish allows her mother to hang out with the friend group because she's looking to be more like her daughter because she's so much more American than her. But Tish's mom proves to be much more fun in the most basic sense of the word than her daughter Tish, leaving her feeling left out and replaced. Her mother notices, however, and apologizes for unfairly putting her daughter in that position. Both Tish's dad and her mom explain that it was mainly because she didn't have a true carefree childhood in their home country where she had to do hard labor in harsh conditions to support her family. Like, that's just genuinely great stuff. That's deeper writing for characters that make them feel more real to the human experience. This is the stuff that leads to more thoughtfully written stories that can pull from and completely respect the experiences of children of immigrant parents, as well as the parents themselves. For me, the series was quite special. Aside from having really good animation that is just really pleasant to look at, slice of life storytelling is one of my favorite genres, and this series embodies that. It's just kids being kids on the weekend as we get to look into their friendships as well as their home life, all having unique and different upbringings and backgrounds. My favorite show of all time, Hey Arnold, is to me the blueprint for this kind of storytelling and character development, but The Weekenders definitely would be sitting pretty high up there next to it as a great example. It executes on everything that makes these kinds of shows work so well and resonate with so many. Sure, the lessons and teachings may be a little too on the nose sometimes for me, but that doesn't mean it didn't work for someone else. The show can apply to so many today just as it did back at the start of the millennium, which greatly boosts its longevity, not tying itself to just that moment in time. Watching it today, I am brought back to my youth, waking up Saturday mornings to catch some cartoons, go outside and hang out with my friends. And with this show giving us a look into some diverse backgrounds, it truly brings me back to my group of friends and how I was introduced to other cultures through them and their families. It deals with single-parent family issues and how growing up without one of your parents can play an effect on both the child and the single parent. It never sacrificed being authentic and true to what it wanted to say for the sake of being something it wasn't. It's great at giving you perspectives that will stick with you while never trying to blatantly flaunt it in your face. It's all done in the realest of ways, being completely natural and true to real life. The Weekenders reminds us all about the great times we had that bookend the school week, the days of being with your friends and learning about yourself in your formative years. Watching it now, it just becomes a way for myself as an adult to reflect on my past, who I was to where I am now, and everything that happened along the way with friends and family, for better or for worse. But I think this show still being able to get something out of me all these years later is the result of how beautiful at the core this show really is. And the animation, specifically the movement of the characters, is so beautifully crafted to have this constant realistic flow of motion. It adds this extra layer that many other shows were not doing and technically doesn't add or take away from the other great stuff the show offers, but I really love this little detail of work.
One moment. Sidebar.
We'll be back after these messages from the secret master of the earth. Obey his will.
Hey, hang around. There's more Weekenders.
The Weekenders was created in an act of Langdale's selling out. His words, not mine. He had done a bunch of more niche and smaller shows and decided that he may as well inquire as to what Disney wanted. At the time, Disney was looking for an animated sitcom about middle school kids, so Langdale went home and brainstormed a bunch of ideas about different aspects of middle school lives. He wrote down on a piece of paper, "Kids on the Weekend." This unassuming piece of paper proved to be immensely important when Langdale went into pitch with the network executives because his fully fleshed out developed ideas did not spark any interest. When asked if he had anything else, he read what was written on that small piece of paper. And of course, that was what they were interested in. On the fly, Langdale started recounting some of his memories from when he was a child, including stories about him and his friends on the weekend, including going to the airport and stealing leftovers from people's room service trays in airport hotels. It's a very odd thing. Weird surely describes that. But after that, they bought the show, which was really just a concept inspired by true stories from Langdale's childhood. He had the task of putting the concept into a concrete show, with characters and everything. His main idea was the unappealing nature of the repetitive school setting. Disney's idea for a middle school sitcom had obviously been done before, so he had wanted to break that precedent. The show is about the weekend, so why talk about school, which is technically the death of the weekend. No, Abel's fine. Thinking about how specific the weekend was when you were a child. Each day had a different meaning. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all had different meanings, both in schedule but also mentally. Friday starts out with plans. What are you gonna do for the next 3 days? You have so much time. Saturday is typically when you do what you were planning, and there's a certain dread and understanding about Sunday and how things must come to a close, and you must face your actions and get everything together before Monday. The choice to have title cards for each day is just honoring the concept of each day being different in a child's mind. They then realize that when you're acknowledging time passing and different days moving by, it only makes sense that the characters would change clothing. They were actually one of the first series that had their characters change their clothing, something I have found impressive in animation from shows like Totally Spies, as just knowing how long the animation process must take to constantly be designing new outfits or a rotation of outfits. Each of the 4 kids had a wardrobe consisting of 5 different shirts and 4 different pants, and as days went on, they would change clothing, which kind of beautifully represents each day passing. Disney also came into production and recommended that they make it more of a pro-social educational show, so they added the concept of breaking the fourth wall and narrating so that the kids could express what they had learned throughout and by the end of the episode. In order to separate Tino when he's directly addressing the viewer from the actual happenings in the episode, they decided to make it visually different by graying out the background as he addresses the camera. The Weekenders was really well received, nominated for 2 awards. It was very successful. While it never reached the 65 episode milestone for Disney, it still had a significant run of 4 years despite the weird 5 episode season 4. The theme song is one of the most memorable and iconic parts of the series. Disney executive Barry Blumberg really liked the singer Wayne Brady, so Langdale decided to use his past connection to get Brady on board as a performer in an effort to impress Blumberg. They had already been in the same improv class in the 90s, and years later, they reconnected and remembered each other, so he asked him to sing the theme song and he agreed. Langdale, having seen Brady in the car furiously scribbling on a piece of paper, assumed that he had written the lyrics in the car 10 minutes before going into the studio to record. But whether or not it's true, he killed it in the recording, and they only had like 1 note for him after his first take. But who came up with the title for the show? Apparently, no one knows. Doug himself tells the story of that name being there and a bunch of people and executives not liking the name of the show, but it was never changed, and forever the show is now just called The Weekenders. But in hindsight, I kinda just like the name. There's still a community of people out there that are actively calling for a reboot of the series or some sort of revival, and I know that a lot of viewers that remember this series from their childhoods would be on board with that as well. I do think it could be an interesting idea, with the method of storytelling being a little dated. There's a lot of fun ways that the series can be modernized and updated while still maintaining that same charm. But first, it would be great if Disney could just start by making the series available on streaming, like they promised. No, literally, Langdale had heard from other people at the production that Disney had said that they would add it, and then they eventually tweeted out in November of 2019 saying that they would add season 1 and 2, but have not added anything since or addressed that matter. Lies, all lies. But until they fulfill their promise, the series is available for purchase. In fact, it was the first Disney series to have a full release on DVD. In addition, there were some online games that were released, such as Lore's Maze of Treats and Tish's Book Ball, but other than that, there wasn't a ton of gaming content for the show because the charm was in the character writing and animation format. But what are your thoughts on The Weekenders? Would you like to see the series come back at all? Also, what's your favorite day of the weekend? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.